Hey, it's your old pal Onion Creature. I'm back in my usual recording setup, and I just wanted to do a bit of a debrief on this recent Nintendo Direct, which has caused a bit of a stir in the Nintendo discussion area online. So this was our big June Direct, which had been pretty hyped up. Largely by virtue of the fact that there had not been a proper full Nintendo Direct since September of 2025, which is pretty wild to think about. Not very usual for that to happen. So expectations were high based on that fact. I myself was pretty pleased with this Nintendo Direct. I had a great time watching it. It appealed to my gaming tastes, as it seems not to have appealed to other people's, which is fine, that does happen. What did a lot of heavy lifting was the Xenoblade news. I am a Xenoblade enjoyer, and so seeing all three of the main games get Switch 2 editions is exceptional. The fact that they're getting new content, and what seems to be relatively substantial new content, is a nice bonus as well. But yeah, just seeing those at 60 frames per second, it seems like the upscaling is a little bit flawed from the impressions I've seen of Xenoblade 1. The resolution upping is maybe not ideal, but I'll have to make my own judgment on that. I haven't tried it out yet. Because there's been plenty of other stuff to play from the Direct, like the new Donkey Kong achievement challenges. So we have those to look forward to, Xenoblade 2 and 3, and then a whole new Xenoblade game. It's unclear if Xenoblade Genesis is going to be fully connected to the mainline series, if it's Xenoblade 4 in everything but name. We don't know that really. The fact that it doesn't have Chronicles as a part of the title is pretty fascinating. This is the first Xenoblade game not to have Chronicles as part of the title outside of Japan. In Japan, they don't have the Chronicles thing that was added by Nintendo in Europe and Nintendo of America when it eventually got released over here. So that's an interesting detail. It does make the game's name presumably more consistent across regions. It's curious. What I was also curious about that game is just the fact that it looks very visually different from what we have seen before from Xenoblade. Here we are. Let's go on over to the Xenoblade segment. Visually, it looks more like a Fire Emblem game, just based on the character designs and the world itself. Which is interesting. A lot of people, myself included, were reminded of Fire Emblem Three Houses in terms of the game taking place in some capacity at an academy, which I did not have a great reaction to that specific detail. That's not something I'm a huge fan of, having to go to a school in a video game. Seems like the kind of thing that happens a lot in anime and JRPGs, but it's not my thing as much. I prefer the grand adventure kind of vibe that we usually get from Xenoblade, but I'm still very open to the overall game itself and curious as to how it's going to turn out. I'm first impression of that new Xenoblade Genesis game was very shocking. Monolith Soft works so freaking fast. It's kind of crazy how productive they've been in the Switch and now Switch 2 generation. I'm really looking forward to checking out these speeder bike things. That's such a silly addition. So that did a lot of heavy lifting for the Direct. I'm curious to learn more. It is next year. We didn't get an English dub for the trailer. It was just in the Japanese language, which is I think, usual for these early Xenoblade trailers. I believe that was also the case for Xenoblade 3, 2, and X. But I'm sure we'll be getting a high-quality English dub, as we always do for the Xenoblade series. That's one thing that's very consistent across titles, is that the dub is always really good. I guess X, in my opinion, a little less so, but the mainline series certainly does get the premium treatment when it comes to their voice acting in the English language. The other thing I liked is I did like that it started out with Rhythm Heaven. I'm a sucker for Rhythm Heaven, huge fan of that series, and I think it totally deserves more attention in general from the wider gaming public. So I didn't mind them devoting quite a lot of time to it. That worked for me. And then what also worked for me that didn't seem to have worked for other people was Switch Sports Resort. This is a curious little title. I will say, so with the original Switch Sports, I was not particularly interested in it because for one, the sports mates are pretty lame. Not a big fan of those in comparison to Mii's. And then, just the content included was not super enthralling. But, it sold very well. A lot of people liked that game, so I'm sure it was fine. I did play the demo at one point, I think. I think there was an online playtest. Anyway, with Switch Sports Resort, I think this is a much bigger deal. Because Wii Sports Resort is more of an actual game than Wii Sports was. There's a lot more content. It has a sense of a world with Woohoo Island. So seeing Woohoo Island return is exceptional. Some of the mini games, or I guess games included in Wii Sports, are returning, like the plane game. And then you have the old standards like golf. And then we have wacky new ones like thumb wrestling, which got a lot of heat because of the extended demo. But skateboarding looks cool as well. Really like the inclusion of a mouse minigame, power cruising. So I think this has potential to be a really great title. It looks great too. It's a Switch 2 exclusive in spite of the game's name, not including Switch 2. They are just sticking with Nintendo Switch Sports as the branding for this little sub-series. But yeah, I think having Woohoo Island is great. And, you do still have Mii's. Cool. It looks like a good time. It really does. And it's priced fairly. It's priced $50 digital, $60 physical. So it's a little bit of a lower price, but so that'll make it a bit more approachable. October is an interesting release timing. That does kind of point to Nintendo's confidence in this title, which I think is rightfully placed given how successful Switch Sports was. And then, just a lot of the other ports were quite cool. You had that Capcom Onimusha game. And here's my favorite third-party announcement. Pikuniku 2. Pikuniku is a Stone Cold classic that was a big Switch 1 title. Very strange game. Very, very charming. It's I'd say the primary focus is definitely comedy. So seeing that brought into a 3D space is doing a lot for me. I'm a big fan of how this looks. And looks... I mean, what can you say? It's Pikuniku 2. It's Pikuniku, but in 3D. It looks freaking amazing. So you should all check this title out when it comes out next year. So that was a very hype announcement. This had been known about for some time, but seeing it get a whole proper segment in a Nintendo Direct, that's pretty goddamn cool. People like Deltarune, I'm told. People like Minecraft. The Kingdom Hearts announcement, I think, is a pretty big deal. Getting all those games physically on Switch. Or not physically, as non-cloud versions, I should say, because unfortunately, like all Square Enix titles up to this point, this is a game keycard. I guess it's kind of understandable with how big the file sizes are going to be for that full package version. Still annoying, nonetheless. But I guess with a title like this, it's a little more understandable. This might be the time where I jump into Kingdom Hearts. It very well could be, with it being available in a convenient way. Yes, people were saying this is maybe AI art. I don't think I buy that. I think people are just really paranoid now about AI art. Maybe it is. I guess it's AI art's good enough that this hypothetically could be. I just really don't think that's the case. I think people are hallucinating, not hallucinating, but really skeptical of all artwork in general that's released now. Like when I go downtown in my city and I see like shop signs and like stickers in store windows, some of them I'm like, hey, is that AI? And sometimes it looks like it might be, sometimes it's not. So that's just something that as a culture we are at right now, which is not great. And you get a demo for Kingdom Hearts 3, which looks really great, looks very comparable to the PS4 version. And then the bigger deal certainly is that there was a pretty lengthy segment on Kingdom Hearts 4. No release window even given, so who knows when this will actually come out. It looks not as good as a PS5 game, but it does look pretty decent in terms of visual fidelity. I don't really know what to make of the rest of it. I think it is weird to be focusing on realistic environments in Kingdom Hearts. From what I know about it. Of course, it's a Disney crossover series. So I am interested to see what Disney sort of stuff they have in this game. I'd be more interested in that than this realistic depiction of, I think it's Tokyo. Even still, big announcement, very big deal. I think maybe this is just the kind of game where it's been so long awaited that the hype has died down a little bit in terms of the mainstream appeal, because I didn't see that many people talking about this, which I feel like I have seen in the past with Kingdom Hearts as someone who has not played any of the games myself. Before we go to the end, I want to talk about that Final Fantasy Pixel remaster, or Pixel, it's not a remaster, this is an original, I think, title. I think maybe it relates to one of the mobile games, I don't know. But I think it looks really great. It has a distinct look from the other HD 2D games. I mean, look at this cutscene. That's crazy. So the scale and scope looks higher than we would usually see in an HD 2D game. I guess it will be on Switch 1, it was saying in that little title card. But this, I think, is also a very big deal. It's not an exclusive, but it was announced as part of the Nintendo Direct, so it's, like most HD 2D games, the Nintendo system seems to be the primary system that they're marketing for. Like, I don't know, this looks pretty goddamn cool to me. We'll see what people say about it when we're closer to release. I'm curious about what kind of gameplay quirks it has. Getting a new turn-based Final Fantasy is really great, though, because the main series has moved away from that, apparently. So I've been told. I haven't played any of the recent 7 remakes or 16. Yeah, man, looks really... I think that was a really strong announcement. We had just a little Splatoon segment. That was fine. Just remind people that it's coming. Oh, Metaphor ReFantazio, another pretty high-profile port that should do well with Nintendo audiences. People like Persona, it's very like that, but within a medieval setting. Here we get to the big finale segment, and this is, I guess, where the main point I wanted to discuss is in that I do feel like a lot of the really mixed reception this Direct is getting is based on the fact that most people knew that Ocarina of Time was going to be here and were disappointed that not much was shown, which is, in most respects, I think a reasonable perspective to have. I can't argue with that. Since most of us have known about this game because of highly credible leaks, it's probably not as exciting as Nintendo would have liked had it not been leaked. I think it would have been I think it probably would have been a much bigger news story if this had not been known of before. With that said, there's still a lot of questions from this trailer. But I do think it clears up the biggest question for me, which is how seriously are they taking it, and how sweeping will the changes to the game be? And based on the trailer, based on the little bit that we have, it looks like quite a lot is going to be different. Yeah, I mean, this level of detail obviously was not in the original game. Yeah, look at the highly detailed hand animation we're getting here. And I just really enjoyed the tone of the trailer. As someone who's not, I can appreciate Ocarina of Time from many points of view. My own personal enjoyment of the title is definitely less than a lot of other people, but I can appreciate how much it means to gamers as a collective. So for me, I'm pretty interested in this title, seeing if it can round off some of the sharper edges I had with my experience and make for a game that I myself can perhaps approach enjoying as much as other people enjoy that original game. The use of music was really expertly done here, with the Lost Forest theme, I think, just like being teased throughout, and little echoey flute sounds, which sounded really cool. The fact that it has voice acting is a pretty big deal. Major pet peeve and totally inconsequential to most people, I imagine, but I do find it annoying in fantasy settings when we have American accents. I know that's kind of cringe, but that's like a hyper-specific detail that I get annoyed with on occasion. Especially in Breath of the Wild, I think the King of Hyrule has a pretty clearly American accent, and then his daughter Zelda has an English accent. I don't know why. It's kind of strange. I don't know. It's a weird thing to care about, but it is something that does irk me slightly. It doesn't ruin this trailer though, and I think it's a good narration voice. It works really well, and I like the content of what he's saying. It's it feels very much like an epic, like a fable. So this is a really great teaser, and I think I really do think it would have gotten a much warmer reception had it not been leaked. I think that's just my view of it. Because what everyone was saying was, hey, why was that so short? Where is the actual gameplay footage? Which is the kind of thing you do want to see from a trailer. It's kind of unusual for Nintendo to show a game so close to release without any real glimpse at proper gameplay. But I am sure that will be coming very soon. Maybe just in a drop on Nintendo Today at some point in the coming months, or in a Zelda Direct as well, could be. I don't think we'll be waiting until the full September Nintendo Direct, which is likely coming this year, to get our full reveal of this Ocarina of Time remake. And I do think it is kind of just the state of things that Nintendo does have to rely on remakes of older titles to fill out the release schedule, because the Switch did have lots of consistent releases throughout most of its lifetime, and that was kind of a result of the failure of the Wii U, that Nintendo was able to take those titles that had not found a wide audience on Wii U and put them without too much effort on Switch, and allow them to flourish, like games like Mario Kart 8 and many others. So now that they don't have those Wii U titles to rely on, they do kind of have to go back further into their back catalog of games and see what else they can use as release fodder. It is strange to have this as potentially the big holiday title for the year, is what is kind of it's looking like for Ocarina of Time. But that does show confidence in the title, which is, I think, a good thing, and shows that the scope could be larger in terms of gameplay changes, in addition to the obvious visual changes. So I am hopeful that we will be seeing at least somewhat of an overhaul in terms of how the game plays. Some more modernization, perhaps. Yeah, we had stuff like Dragon Quest Monsters. That's just a nice little reveal. This Donkey Kong DLC is kind of neat. I do like these new Donkey Kong challenges that they do for the classic games. That's kind of neat. Been playing a few of those. This Mario DLC is cool. Kind of the most notable thing from Mario in this direct. Oh, we also had the Fire Emblem segment. So that was nice. You got to see, I guess there's like 5 different main characters or something wacky like that. The Pokopia DLC is also a pretty big deal. To get that announced, you're going to be able to swim now. That's nice. Stellar Blade, another high-profile port. Yeah, I'm with it. This was a good one for me. For my tastes, this was a really great direct. Felt like a proper summer direct. Sad to see that that's not the case for many others. That's just how it goes sometimes. I do feel a bit disconnected from the wider response that has been quite negative. Thumb wrestling segment. I enjoyed this just because it's ridiculous. I feel like they know it's ridiculous to do this, to spend like a minute and a half or so on thumb wrestling in Nintendo Switch Sports Resort. That is a wacky choice. I'm down for this level of obscene fluff. Why the hell not? Also, Duskbloods did not get much. There is apparently a closed playtest coming. The fact that it's closed is a little weird. But so we do have to be getting more on this soon. I feel like this will they'll probably announce the details on that network test in like a social media drop, maybe on Nintendo Today. The game itself did look more like it was proper in-engine footage than the last time we saw Duskbloods. So I think it is coming along. I'm curious to see what final state it's going to be in. And again, this is another one where I feel like it's a bigger deal than it's being made out to be at times. I'm not myself a huge FromSoft fan, but I am potentially interested in this because they're doing something different. We'll have to see how that shakes out. And I agree that more footage would have been great to have. That is definitely a blemish on the direct, that they didn't go into more detail on some of these titles. But showing it at all is a great thing. I see nothing wrong with that. Strong direct for me. I am very happy with the release schedule for the rest of the year thus far. No Kirby games, which is sad. I'm not too surprised because we did get Air Riders just in November, and then the Forgotten Land Switch 2 edition last year as well, in August. So we had a pretty heavy year last year. And then we do have the 35th anniversary coming up next year. So lots to look forward to aside from that. And I'm sure Kirby games will be gracing our Nintendo systems very soon. I guess the part that's surprising to me is just that we haven't seen a Kirby title for Switch 1, which is so usual for Nintendo and HAL Laboratory to do, is put Kirby titles on their older systems as they're transitioning into the new system. That's happened with almost every single system Nintendo's ever made. So curious to see that has not really happened on Switch 1. I would not rule out some sort of remaster coming to Switch 1 and, of course, having Switch 2 compatibility with Kirby. That's one of the few things that our Nate the Hate leaker has spoken of that has not come to fruition yet, which is a Kirby Planet Robobot remaster. That could potentially still be real, because Nintendo is releasing some Switch 1 titles. There's plenty of third-party titles that are getting dual releases as well. So it could still happen. Not in this direct, though, which is a bit of a shame. I think that could have been a nice bonus thing, since that seems like the kind of game that could have hit pretty hard if they placed it right at the right timing. Oh yeah, Devil May Cry 5. That's another big third-party game port. Yes. All right. Oh, I forgot Muramasa. Yes, I played this game on Wii, I think last year, which was a pretty good time. I'm not as huge on it as other people are, but it is. I can see why it's a cult classic. It's fun. It's got a cool art style, very unique game. So seeing a modern version of that with nice redone visuals and the PS Vita version content is apparently in here too. It's got a new English dub coming out 2027. That's a pretty big game. Big deal to have that game. Nice to have more of the Wii catalog making the jump over to Switch. Is this on Switch 1 or just Switch 2? I don't know. I think it might be on Switch 1 as well. I feel like there's no reason this shouldn't be on Switch 1. Yeah, it is on Switch 1. All right, cool. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you again soon.